You did it. You spent the last 2 years learning Spanish, and now you can finally speak it fluently. Your dream is achieved after so much time and effort, after countless hours reading books and listening to podcasts. And since you're done with Spanish already, you move on to another language and start giving it your total focus, and everything goes well. However, after some months you try having a conversation in Spanish, only to find out that you forgot a very big amount of vocabulary, and you feel sad for that, like if all your progress has been lost. This story fortunately is fictional, but it happens more times than you would think, especially amongst passionate language learners. It's very easy to always be searching for new languages to learn and forget about the ones you already speak, so it isn't rare to see a person who has forgotten one or more languages. But fret not, because today we're going to be exploring how you can maintain your languages so you never forget them. The first thing to know is, why do people forget languages? And it's very simple to explain. It's just due to lack of practice. If you stop using language regularly, then you'll forget it eventually, even if it's your native language. I actually have that problem because my English and Spanish are better than my Portuguese, which is my native language. I am guilty myself of not practicing it enough, so there are many words I don't know in Portuguese. It may sound simple to just practice more a language, but the problem comes when you have a lot of languages to maintain, because it's definitely easy to maintain, for example, 1, 2, or even 3 languages, but those polyglots who speak, 9 languages, that's crazy. First, I'm gonna give some ways to maintain languages in a normal situation, and then we'll examine the latter one with multiple languages. A very good way is, of course, talking with native speakers. If you force yourself to talk in that language, your brain will start remembering once again all of those forgotten words and expressions, and even grammar, since you'll be actively using your knowledge. A lot of people avoid speaking in their target language for a bunch of different reasons, but I'm sure that for some people one of them it's because it's just difficult. It's very uncomfortable to be always muttering in search for the words you have to say, or how you should say one tense or whatever. It's really hard to speak in a target language. That's one of the reasons a lot of people avoid it, but it's definitely necessary to achieve fluency. You can also read, of course, and that will also help you remember words and expressions and analyze the grammar of the language. One of the best milestones in language learning actually is when you're able to read a whole book in your target language, especially if it's a non-fiction book. Those are easier to understand. Of course, not understand 100%, but I know 75% without translating. That's an amazing feeling. Also, listening will make wonders. And one of the big advantages of listening to podcasts or audiobooks, for example, is that you can do it whenever you want, wherever you want. Reading and speaking, for example, require you to put aside specific time for it and dedicate yourself completely to the task. For example, if you want to read, you gotta sit down at the table or lie down in your bed and read. And if you want to speak, you gotta go out or have talk in a phone call or whatever, but you actually gotta dedicate yourself to that task. But that doesn't happen with listening. You can actually listen to a podcast, for example, while you're driving or exercising or taking a walk, and that's very efficient. It's actually what I talked about in the video of dead times. These are pretty much the only things needed to maintain a language. However, as I've said, things can get a little out of control if you want to be maintaining a bunch of different languages. If you have to maintain more than 3 languages, for example, then you should be applying these strategies, of course, of reading, listening, and speaking, but you should also add additional ones to keep yourself organized and avoid burning out. One of those is to create a schedule, and that is very important. Let's say you have to maintain, for example, 6 languages. There are two that you use every day, and one is the one you're learning, so there is no need to actively maintain those languages since you already do it every day. And there are three you barely use, but you already know them fluently. You will be more focused naturally on the first three languages that you use every day, but what about the three last ones? It's so easy to just forget completely about all those languages and not practice them anymore because of all the things you have to do, not only related to language learning, but related to your job, your studies, whatever. So the best thing you can do is to create a schedule that would allow you and remind you to maintain those three languages. You could, for example, maintain one on Monday, one on Wednesday, and one on Friday, or even every 2 weeks or 3. It doesn't have to be every week. An important thing to know is that once you reach a good conversational level in a language, let's say B2, you will never again forget that language completely. Years can pass by and you will forget a lot of vocabulary, of course, but if you dedicate again some weeks to studying that language again, you will remember it pretty good. It's like when you go to the gym and you suffer an injury and you have to steer away from exercise for a couple of months. You'll lose some muscle, yeah, but when you start training again, you'll be able to recover that muscle pretty quick thanks to your brain's muscle memory compared to a person who has just started training, for example. So put some time aside to create a schedule and you'll see how helpful it is. The second thing is maintaining each language differently. Change something. Don't maintain all of the languages in the same place using the same book or device at the same hour. If you're maintaining 3 languages, for example, one of them could be in the living room, another one could be in your bedroom, and the last one could be maintained every time you take a walk by listening to a podcast. This is mostly to avoid confusion between languages. When you create a different environment for each language, you make it unique, and your brain learns to associate the things you learn in that language with that specific place, hour, or method. However, if you just mix everything up and you do everything the same way, it'll have no uniqueness and it'll be easier to get confused. So now you know it. Maintaining languages is relatively easy. What's difficult is organizing your time properly so you can maintain all of them. The best advice here is to just create a good schedule and using a different environment for each one. This is everything for today. Thanks for watching the video. I hope this helped some of you understand how languages can be maintained, and I will also definitely start using this advice with Portuguese and Russian since I need to start maintaining them as well. I've forgotten a lot of things. You can also write down in the comments the languages you're trying to maintain, and we'll see each other in the next video. Bye bye!